Have you ever felt the world tilt on its axis, all because of one unexpected moment? One glance, one touch, one misplaced word that rewrites everything you thought you knew? What happens when the lines of family, respect, and desire become dangerously blurred? This is Leah's story. A story about unspoken feelings, a hidden crisis, and a choice that would change her life forever. Are you ready to listen? That evening after we finished dinner, a wave of heat washed over me, sudden and oppressive. It wasn't just the lingering warmth of the summer day. It was a deep internal heat, the kind that prickles your skin and makes your clothes feel suddenly too tight, too heavy. I could feel the sweat gathering at the nape of my neck, trickling down my spine, soaking the delicate silk of my dress to my back. Instinctively, I knew I needed to cool down, to wash away this unsettling feeling that had nothing to do with the weather. "I'm going to take a quick shower," I announced to Aiden and John, my voice a little breathier than usual. Aiden, ever attentive, looked up from his conversation with his father, his brow furrowed with concern. "Are you all right, honey? You look a little flushed." "Just feeling a bit warm, that's all," I reassured him, managing a weak smile. "It's been a long day." John, my father-in-law, merely nodded, his gaze returning to the evening news on the television, though I could feel his eyes linger on me for a moment longer than necessary. It was probably my imagination, fueled by this strange unease that had settled over me. The bathroom, though small, was my sanctuary. I loved the clean, minimalist tiles, the scent of lavender soap that always lingered in the air, the simple act of letting warm water cascade over me, washing away the day's stresses, both physical and emotional. The water flowed just as I expected, gentle and pleasant against my skin, soothing the sudden agitation that had taken hold. I closed my eyes, letting the steam envelop me, breathing deeply, trying to ground myself in the familiar ritual. When I finally emerged, wrapped in a fluffy white towel, the oppressive heat had dissipated, replaced by a fragile calm. Stepping into the bedroom, I felt a renewed sense of peace, a temporary reprieve from the undercurrent of tension that often hummed beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life. I chose a dress from my closet, a soft beige silk number, one of my favorites for evenings at home. It was simple, elegant, the kind of dress that felt both comfortable and subtly alluring. A V-neck, flattering without being overtly revealing, and a long, delicate zipper running down the back. Drying myself quickly, I slipped into the dress, the cool silk a welcome contrast to my still damp skin. Felt good, familiar. Almost like armor against the nameless anxieties that sometimes crept into my thoughts. Reaching behind me, I grasped the small metal pull of the zipper, intending to fasten it quickly and rejoin Aiden and John in the living room. But then it happened. The zipper snagged. Not at the top, not at the bottom, but stubbornly, frustratingly, right in the middle of my back. I tugged gently, then a little harder. Nothing. It was stuck fast, the delicate fabric caught in the teeth of the zipper. A sigh of annoyance escaped my lips. "Stupid thing," I muttered under my breath, pulling again, now with a little more force, but still the zipper remained immobile. Frustration began to simmer beneath the surface of my calm. I twisted and turned, trying to get a better angle to see what was causing the obstruction, but the zipper was positioned right in the center of my back, out of reach of my eyes. I could feel the fabric bunching up, the delicate silk straining against the unyielding metal. After several futile attempts, a wave of exasperation washed over me. This was ridiculous. I was trapped in my own dress, unable to fasten it, unable to take it off without potentially damaging the delicate silk. For a fleeting moment, panic flickered within me, quickly replaced by a more practical thought. Aiden. He would know what to do. He was always so patient, so resourceful. My first instinct was to call out to him, to summon him to my rescue. But then I remembered. He and John had been deeply engrossed in a conversation when I left for my shower. I hesitated. Interrupting them seemed unnecessary for something so trivial. Surely I could manage this myself. But after another failed attempt to budge the zipper, pride gave way to practicality. Fine, I would ask for help. But not Aiden. Not yet. My eyes scanned the room, landing on my reflection in the dressing mirror. A wave of self-consciousness washed over me. I was still in my towel, albeit now partially covered by the stuck dress. I glanced at the clock on my nightstand. Aiden wouldn't be back for a while. He had mentioned needing to run out to the store after dinner for some supplies. John, however, was right there in the living room. It felt awkward to ask my father-in-law for help with something as personal as a stuck zipper. But what choice did I have? Waiting for Aiden seemed silly. Taking a deep breath, I decided to venture out, hoping to catch Aiden before he left. I stepped out of the bedroom and into the hallway, my bare feet patting softly on the plush carpet. The living room was bathed in dim, amber light, a comforting glow that usually signaled relaxation, quiet evenings, family time. But tonight, the dimness felt different. Ominous, almost. Stepping into the living room, my eyes immediately landed on John. He was sitting in his usual armchair, near the window, not watching television as I had assumed, but simply sitting. The room felt strangely empty, quiet. Too quiet. Where was Aiden? Dad! I called out, my voice a little louder than I intended, the silence of the room amplifying every sound. John looked up, startled, his eyes widening slightly as he focused on me. Surprise flickered across his face, quickly replaced by a something else. Something I couldn't quite decipher in the dim light. Concern? Curiosity? Or was it something deeper? Leah, he said, his voice a low rumble, breaking the heavy silence. Is everything all right? I thought you were taking a shower. I was, I replied, my voice a little hesitant now, the question of the zipper feeling suddenly insignificant, almost inappropriate in the charged silence of the room. Where's Aiden? I thought he was here with you. John shifted in his chair, his gaze flickering away from mine for a brief moment before returning, steadier now, more intense. Aiden? Oh, he just went out. Said he needed to pick up a few things from the store. Should be back soon. His words were casual, almost too casual, lacking the natural flow of conversation. It felt rehearsed. A prickle of unease ran down my spine, a cold shiver that had nothing to do with the post-shower chill. Oh, I said, the sound barely audible. Okay. Another awkward silence descended, thicker, heavier than before. I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, suddenly aware of my state of undress, of the stuck zipper digging into my back, of John's unwavering gaze fixed on me. It felt exposed, uncomfortable, wrong. But then the practical side of me reasserted itself. I needed help with the zipper, and Aiden wasn't here. And John was. There was no other option. Pushing down the rising tide of awkwardness, I took another deep breath and plunged in. Dad. I began again, my voice barely above a whisper. Actually, the reason I came out my dress, the zipper is stuck. I can't pull it up. Could you possibly help me? The words tumbled out in a rush, a mumbled plea, laced with embarrassment and a strange undercurrent of something else. Anticipation? Fear? I wasn't sure. I kept my eyes fixed on the floor, unable to meet his gaze, feeling the heat rising in my cheeks, hotter than any lingering warmth from the shower. A beat of silence hung in the air, heavy and pregnant with unspoken meaning. Then, I heard the distinct sound of John putting down his teacup on the small side table beside his chair. The clink of porcelain against wood echoed loudly in the quiet room, each sound amplifying the strange tension that had coiled between us. He stood up slowly, deliberately, his movements fluid and graceful despite his age. He was a tall man, John, still powerfully built, even in his late 60s. And as he walked towards me, each step deliberate, measured, the space between us seemed to shrink, the air growing thick with an unspoken electricity. Let me see, he said, his voice calm, reassuring, but with a new depth, a resonance that I hadn't noticed before. He stopped right behind me, so close I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, sense the subtle shift in the air as he moved. And then, his breath, warm and faintly minty, fanned the back of my neck, sending a shiver down my spine, a shiver that had nothing to do with the cool air from the window. Nervousness tightened its grip, coiling in my stomach, spreading outwards to my limbs. This was ridiculous, I told myself. It was just John, my father-in-law, helping me with a stuck zipper. There was nothing else to it. But my body refused to believe my rationalizations. My heart was pounding against my ribs, my breath coming in shallow gasps, my skin prickling with a heightened awareness of every sensation. And then his hand, warm, firm, strong as it reached around me, brushing lightly against my waist as he reached for the zipper pull. The touch was fleeting, almost accidental, but it sent another jolt of electricity through me, a strange, unsettling mix of something I couldn't name, couldn't categorize, couldn't understand. His fingers closed around the small metal tab, gentle yet assured. He murmured, his voice close to my ear, sending another shiver down my spine. Seems to be stuck in the fabric, all right? He tilted his head slightly, his breath brushing my ear now, and I could feel the faint scent of his aftershave, a familiar, comforting scent that suddenly felt different, intimate. He began to work on the zipper, his fingers deft and precise, gently manipulating the fabric around the snag, trying to free the trapped silk. I could feel the subtle pressure of his body against mine, the warmth of his hand on my back, the faint vibrations of his movements traveling through my dress to my skin. Each sensation was amplified, heightened, charged with an undercurrent of something forbidden. Then it happened. A small click, almost imperceptible but undeniably there. The sound of the zipper releasing, finally giving way. And then everything accelerated. Time seemed to warp, to speed up, to compress into a single terrifying, exhilarating instant. The zipper, freed from its obstruction, slid down, not gently, not gradually, but hard, fast, in a sudden rush of movement. And with it, the smooth silk of my dress, no longer held in place, lost its moorings and cascaded downwards, pooling at my feet in a soft, whispering sigh. One moment I was clothed, albeit awkwardly, uncomfortably, nervously. The next, I was standing there, exposed, vulnerable, my bare skin suddenly cold in the dim light of the living room. The gentle breeze from the open window now a chilling caress against my naked flesh. The air seemed to rush out of my lungs, leaving me breathless, speechless, utterly, irrevocably frozen. Frozen in time, frozen in place, frozen in disbelief. That's how I stood there, in the living room of my own home, naked in front of my father-in-law, the remnants of my silk dress a silken puddle around my ankles. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the comfortable, familiar reality of my life suddenly violently shattered. Time itself seemed to have stopped, suspended in this single, agonizing, terrifying moment. All sound receded, all movement ceased, all thoughts dissolved into a swirling vortex of shock and disbelief. Hello everyone. My name is Leah, and I'm 28 years old. For 3 years I've been married to Aiden, a wonderful man, my partner, my best friend. On the surface, our life was perfect. A beautiful home, stable jobs, financial security, a loving, devoted husband. And me? I was thriving in my career, finding fulfillment and joy in my work, building a life I had always dreamed of. We lived with Aiden's father, Mr. John, a man in his late 60s, strong, calm, a pillar of our family, someone I respected deeply. He was more than just a father-in-law. He was a mediator, a wise counsel, the glue that held our little family unit together. Our only real point of contention, the only persistent cloud on our otherwise bright horizon, was children. Aiden longed for a family, for the patter of little feet, for the joyous chaos of kids. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. My career was just taking off, my ambitions were still burning bright. I wanted to build something for myself, to solidify my own identity before stepping into the all-consuming role of motherhood. This difference in our desires was a recurring theme in our conversations, a gentle tug-of-war in our relationship. But it never escalated into real conflict, never diminished the love and respect we had for each other. Aiden was patient, understanding, always willing to listen to my reasons, to my fears. And I, in turn, tried to understand his yearning, to acknowledge the validity of his dreams. And whenever our discussions grew a little too heated, a little too tense, Mr. John would step in, his calm presence a soothing balm on our frayed nerves. He would remind us, gently, that family was about understanding, about compromise, about navigating differences with love and patience. Everything can be solved slowly, he would say, his voice a low, reassuring murmur. And he was right. Thanks to his wisdom, his guidance, Aiden and I always found our way back to each other, always managed to bridge the gap between our opposing desires. I truly believed that our life would continue on this smooth, predictable path, a gentle, meandering river flowing towards a peaceful future. But I was wrong. So wrong. Because on one ordinary evening everything changed. Completely. That day, like so many others, began with the comforting rhythm of routine. I woke up a little earlier than usual, the first rays of dawn painting soft strokes of pink and gold across the bedroom curtains. The house was quiet, still wrapped in the peaceful slumber of early morning. I slipped out of bed carefully, trying not to disturb Aiden, who was still sleeping soundly beside me. Downstairs, the kitchen was bathed in the soft pre-dawn light. I moved quietly, instinctively, preparing breakfast for the family, a ritual I had come to cherish. Aiden, bless his simple tastes, was always happy with a slice of toast and a strong cup of black coffee. For myself, I poured a glass of warm milk, a comforting start to what promised to be another busy day. Mr. John, as always, was already up, settled in his favorite armchair in the breakfast nook, the crisp rustle of newspaper pages filling the otherwise silent air, punctuated by the gentle clinking of his teacup. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the subtle earthy scent of Darjeeling tea, creating a fragrant tapestry of domestic tranquility. The air in the house felt peaceful, warm, filled with the gentle promise of a new day. After breakfast, I hurried upstairs to get ready for work. My office job, thankfully, wasn't overly stressful, but it did demand a high level of focus, a constant mental juggling act of deadlines, meetings, and reports. I chose my outfit carefully. A crisp white shirt, elegant trousers, and sensible yet stylish light high heels. Professional, confident, put together. The image I projected to the world, the persona I inhabited during my working hours. On my way to the office, I made my usual stop at a nearby coffee shop, treating myself to a latte, a small indulgence, a little reward before plunging into the day's demands. The office was indeed busier than usual that day. Back-to-back meetings, urgent emails, pressing deadlines. The hours blurred into a relentless cycle of activity. I pushed through, tackling each task with focused determination, maintaining my usual optimistic outlook, reminding myself that this wasn't just a job, it was my chosen path, my passion, my source of fulfillment. Finally, when the clock struck 5 p.m., a wave of relief washed over me. I packed up my documents, shut down my computer, and left the office, stepping out into the gentle embrace of the afternoon sunlight. The warm rays felt like a comforting balm after the fluorescent glare of the office, a reward for a day well spent. On my way home, I stopped at the supermarket, a familiar routine, a necessary chore. Tonight, I decided, I would cook a slightly more elaborate dinner than usual. It had been too long since we had all sat down together, truly together, without the hurried pace of daily life encroaching on our family time. I picked up fresh salmon, vibrant green vegetables, fragrant herbs, and a few other ingredients, envisioning a delicious, nourishing meal that we could all savor together. When I arrived home, the house was already filled with the tantalizing aroma of something cooking. Aiden was in the kitchen, humming softly to himself as he stirred a pot on the stove. He greeted me with a warm smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners, the kind of smile that always made my heart melt, no matter how tired or stressed I was. He helped me set the table, his movements efficient and familiar, a silent dance of domesticity that we had perfected over the years. Hot chicken soup, a platter of grilled salmon, and a generous portion of fragrant stir-fried vegetables soon graced the table. Mr. John emerged from his study, a rare smile of satisfaction lighting up his usually composed face as he surveyed the dinner spread. We gathered around the table, the three of us chatting and laughing, sharing stories from our day. Even the underlying tension about children seemed to fade into the background, momentarily forgotten in the warmth of shared food and companionship. These family meals, despite the occasional undercurrent of unresolved conflict, were always the most precious moments for me, the moments that anchored me to the core of my being, reminding me of what truly mattered. Little did I know that this seemingly peaceful, ordinary dinner would be the calm before the storm, that in the quiet aftermath of this shared meal, an unexpected event, a moment of unforeseen intimacy, would shatter the fragile peace of our lives and set in motion a chain of events that would change everything, forever. After dinner, I felt a little stuffy. The lingering heat from the kitchen, combined with the lingering stress of the day, seemed to have settled in my chest, making me feel constricted, uncomfortable. I think I'll just take a quick shower, I announced again, this time with a more genuine need for cooling relief. I'll be right back. Aiden nodded absently, already engrossed in a book he had picked up, and John merely glanced up from his newspaper, his gaze, as always, calm and inscrutable. The cool water this time felt more than just soothing. It felt necessary, desperately needed. I lingered in the shower longer than usual, letting the water wash over me, trying to cleanse not just my skin, but also the vague unease that had settled over me after dinner, a feeling that was more than just physical discomfort, a subtle premonition of something unsettling. After the shower, I chose a different dress, the cream-colored silk one, my absolute favorite, the one with the zipper in the back. Foolishly, perhaps, I thought that changing dresses, changing my routine slightly, might somehow ward off the strange feeling that had taken hold. As if the dress itself held some kind of protection. Standing in front of the mirror in my bedroom, I reached behind me to zip it up, expecting the familiar, smooth glide of the zipper, the satisfying click as it reached the top. But then the zipper snagged. Halfway up my back, just like before, stubbornly, infuriatingly stuck. A wave of déjà vu washed over me. A chilling echo of the earlier frustration, but this time it felt different. More significant. More ominous. I fumbled with the zipper, pulling, tugging, twisting, but it remained resolutely immobile. Annoyance quickly morphed into a deeper sense of disquiet. It wasn't just the zipper, it was everything. The heat, the unease, the silence in the living room, John's lingering gaze, the strangely rehearsed explanation about Aiden being out. Everything seemed to be conspiring to create a sense of mounting tension, a feeling that something was about to break. Driven by a growing sense of desperation, I walked out of the bedroom again, intending this time to find Aiden, no matter where he was, no matter what he was doing. Aiden! I called out, my voice a little louder this time, echoing through the quiet house. Aiden, are you there? Silence. Only silence answered my call. The living room was still empty, bathed in the same dim amber light. The silence felt heavier now, more oppressive, almost suffocating. Aiden was truly gone. And I was alone. Except, I wasn't alone. John was still there in his armchair just as before, the newspaper now discarded on the side table, his gaze fixed on me. Aiden! I called out again, more tentatively this time, turning towards John, hoping he might have heard something, anything. Where did he go? Do you know when he'll be back? He looked up, his movements slow, deliberate, his eyes meeting mine, holding my gaze with an intensity that made my breath catch in my throat. Aiden went out for a bit, he repeated, his voice even lower, even calmer than before, almost too calm. Said he'd be back later. He paused, his gaze unwavering, searching, almost assessing. What's up, Leah? He asked, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Is something wrong? I hesitated again, the question of the zipper suddenly feeling trivial, absurd, in the face of this growing, inexplicable tension that had sprung up between us, a tension that seemed to crackle in the air, thick and suffocating. But again, practicality, necessity pushed through my hesitation. There was no one else to ask. And the zipper was still stubbornly, frustratingly stuck. Dad. I began again, my voice barely audible, almost swallowed by the heavy silence of the room. Actually, it's the zipper again. On my dress. It's stuck. Again. I can't pull it up. Would you mind helping me? Just for a second. I turned away from him slightly, bowing my head, offering him access to the zipper, my back towards him, suddenly, acutely aware of the vulnerability of my posture, the exposed nape of my neck, the delicate silk of the dress clinging to my skin. My heart was pounding, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs, my breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, pregnant with unspoken meaning, charged with an undercurrent of something dangerous. Then I heard him move. The soft rustle of fabric as he stood up, the almost silent padding of his feet on the carpet as he moved towards me. He stepped closer and closer still, until he was standing right behind me, his presence filling the small space between us, his body heat radiating towards mine, a warmth that felt different. Not comforting, not reassuring, but intense. A disturbing, unsettling heat that had nothing to do with the summer evening. His hand reached out, firm and strong, not hesitant, not awkward, but with a certainty. A confidence that sent another shiver, a colder, more terrifying shiver down my spine. His fingers brushed against the zipper, the metal cold against my skin, a jarring contrast to the sudden heat that flared within me at his touch. He murmured again, his voice low, resonant, close to my ear, sending tremors of something forbidden through my very core. Seems to be stuck in this fabric, he repeated, but this time his words felt different. like a pretext, a justification for the closeness, for the touch, for the intimacy of the moment. And then he applied force. Not gentle, not tentative, but a firm, decisive pull. And the zipper, as if waiting for just the right amount of pressure, finally gave way. Not with a click this time, but with a small, almost imperceptible swish. The sound of silk sliding against silk, the sound of fabric giving way, the sound of something else. Something breaking. And in that instant, as the zipper slid down, releasing its hold, the soft dress followed, slipping down my body, cascading around my ankles in a whisper of silk, leaving me standing there, naked, vulnerable, exposed, in the dim light of the living room in front of him. Frozen. Utterly, irrevocably frozen. And in that frozen moment, as the world tilted on its axis, as time itself seemed to stand still, I knew with a terrifying certainty that everything had changed. Completely. And irrevocably. And that's where my story ends. For now. What happened after that moment is a story for another time. A darker story. A more painful story. But this moment of carelessness, this moment of weakness, this moment where boundaries blurred and lines were crossed, this is where it all began. This is the moment that changed everything. Leah's story is just beginning. What do you think will happen next? What choices will Leah make? What are your thoughts on what happened in that living room? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to hear more of Leah's story, if you're eager to find out what happens next, then make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below telling us you want to see part 2. Your support is what keeps these stories coming. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next video.